Hello, welcome. My name is Monica, and I'm the owner of an English bookstore in South Korea. So, I want to talk about how I became, a bookstore owner and, all of the process that went into it, and talk about my bookstore a little bit. And so, yeah, my bookstore's name is Chaek Out Books. So Chaek. Chaek in Korean means book. So I wanted the name to kind of be a pun. And my husband and I were kind of tossing ideas around. And we kind of landed on, you know, check out, like check it out, or, when you're at a library and you check out a book. So, and then a little about me is that I first got into mostly Japanese culture and a little bit of K-pop when I was in high school. And then I started learning Japanese on my own. And eventually I moved to Japan. And I lived there for like a total of 3 years, but over the span of maybe 6 years. And yeah, eventually, it's a long story, but I met my husband, and he's Korean. And he's from a city called Daejeon, which is in the center of Korea. And it's the fifth largest city, I believe. And so, yeah, eventually I moved to Korea, we got married, and now we have an almost 4 year old. And then also, right now, I'm actually pregnant. So I'm going to have another baby soon in about a month. So, but yeah, I started my bookstore in January of 2023. And yeah, I just want to share about it. When I first came to Korea, I was teaching English. And then after a little while, I stopped teaching at Hagwon, which are like academy type places. And I wanted something different. So I started tutoring adults. I did my master's degree in adult education. And so I've always really been passionate about teaching adults, like older people. And yeah, I joined a book club. And it was a really fun way to read books and talk about it with other people. And then one of my friends knew that I was doing a book club, and he was leaving Korea and he needed someone to fill in for a book club that he ran at the library. So I talked to the librarian and they hired me through the government. So I was actually a paid government worker. And yeah, I worked at the library, and every week we would have a book club meeting, and I would choose the books, and we would read a little bit and then get together and talk about it for an hour or two. And I did that for almost 5 years, and I had a pretty good group following. But sometimes the librarian would talk about how we didn't have enough money to pay me anymore, or they wanted to change up the classes that they offered. And a lot of my book club members were kind of angry and sad about it. They wanted to keep going with the book club, but it was kind of up in the air, especially after COVID. One year we only did Zoom meetings, and we really wanted to keep the book club going. And also, it was not in my neighborhood, it was in another neighborhood. And at the time, I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus every day. And it was a little bit out of my way. So one day, one of my friends was at my house, and I was recommending her books. I was recommending her kids' books and novels, and even Korean books that I read that I liked. And she told me, "You should have a bookstore." And it's always any reader's dream, right, to have their own bookstore. But I thought maybe it was something, 20 years down the line, maybe I would have a bookstore. But, recently in our neighborhood, there have been a lot of stores that are opening with nobody working there. So in Korean, there's a word called muin, it technically means no people. So the whole system is like self checkout, and there's CCTV cameras everywhere. And there are a lot of places like that in my neighborhood. There was a meal kit place. There were like stationery stores where kids can go buy pencils and toys and stuff. There's a Muin clothing store. There's one for ice cream. So, yeah, my husband and I were thinking about what if we did a bookstore, but it was also self checkout. So, I actually visited a small bookstore not too far away from me, and it was that kind of system where you just walk in and look around, buy a book at the little kiosk, and then leave. So I didn't want to totally do that. I didn't want my bookstore to only be for self checkout. I wanted to actually be in the store, especially because I have an English bookstore in Korea, and a lot of people want English books for their kids, or their kids learn English, or they've learned English their whole lives, but they're not really sure what to buy. And there are a lot of companies that sell like sets of books, but they're not like Goodnight Moon, or if you give a mouse a cookie, or something like really special. Like, I grew up with books that were really special, and I have a lot of memories with my parents reading the books to me. But I would go to my friends' houses and notice that their English books were just kind of generic and made by like a company. So I wanted to be able to get books for myself, because I just really love walking into a bookstore and there's so many books around and you just get to browse. And in Korea, especially because of the pandemic, but yeah, also just kind of this is the way that Korean bookstores are. You go into a bookstore and a lot of the books are wrapped in like a plastic film. So you can't really like flip through a lot of them. Some of them will have samples on the top. But also nearby me, there was no English bookstore. There were like a few libraries that had English books, but it just wasn't the same feeling. So I think I wanted to create somewhere where I wanted to go. And yeah, I have a son, and I'm always looking for kids' books for him, board books and all sorts of things. And with children's books, you really want to open it and look in the inside and see the illustrations. And then I would go to a Korean bookstore, and they would be, they would only have a small section of English books, and they would all be wrapped in plastic, and they would be like Count of Monte Cristo and Victor Hugo and things like that. It wasn't like new graphic novels that I was interested in, or new novels or anything like that. Also, another big point of why I made the bookstore, every time I told my book club members, hey, we're going to read this book now, we would always have trouble either getting the book or getting the book on time, or, the book editions would be different. So I would say turn to page 75, and then all of them would have a different version. So I thought it would be really awesome if I could find a way to have a bookstore and a place for me to have my book club meetings. But then that way I could control, what edition I sell, and everybody could have the same book and get at the same time. So that's another big reason that I opened the bookstore, actually. So once me and my husband decided, yeah, we can try to look into having a bookstore, opening one. So the first thing you need is a place, right? A venue. So in my neighborhood, it's very walkable, and there are lots of little stores and lots of small businesses. A lot of places will have a for rent sign in the door. And then you can go on an app and kind of see the price that they're listed for. But we would walk around and peek our head in the window, and some of them would be totally unfinished. The floors are not finished. There's no heating or air. There's no water pipe, there's nothing. You know, you would have to do everything by yourself. You'd have to paint, you would have to do the ceilings. It would be a lot of renovation. And then on top of that, the rent in my area is pretty high. So I kind of thought about maybe giving up. Like maybe I should just call it a pipe dream and not do it. But one day I got on my phone and just kind of looked through the app again. And I searched for places by price, lowest first. And I found a place and I was really shocked because it was really close to my house. It was on the first floor and it was a corner store, which is what I wanted. It has a lot of windows and it kind of faces people walking by. And actually it was a cafe and there was no for rent sign on the door, but we called the real estate agent and actually they already had our number from when we had moved into the neighborhood about 8 years ago. So I went over there and talked to her, and then we set up a meeting to go walk around the store. So it used to be a cafe, and it's really cute and kind of European looking on the outside. And it was already finished. The floors are done. There are light fixtures. There's a sink and a countertop and everything. So basically, all we would have to do was get shelves for the books and display tables and things like that. Well, when I walked in, there was this huge blank wall on one side. And when it was a cafe, it had a pretty long bench. And people would sit on the bench. There would be a table and then maybe a chair on the other side. But when I walked in, I just saw this huge blank white wall. And I was like, I need to put bookshelves there. That's the perfect place to put bookshelves. So, yeah, we talked about pricing, and it was actually one of the cheapest rental places in our area. And the woman who did the cafe, she was pregnant, and she couldn't run the cafe anymore. Because obviously, if you're a barista, you have to, serve coffee and everything. But for my idea, I was going to make it semi self-checkout. Self-checkout, but semi-mooing, where I would be here sometimes and then I don't have to be here all the time. So whenever I have to go home, pick up my son, or go eat lunch, or, I have it set up so that my hours are 10 to 10. So yeah, people can walk in and browse whenever they want to and buy a book, and it's really great. So I think I have the best of both worlds. And a lot of my friends and family were saying that would never work in America. Where I'm from, it would be impossible to just have the door open and let people walk around. But yeah, Korea is really safe, and there's not a hoarding kind of culture here. There's not really a theft culture. If you go to a cafe or a restaurant or something, and you leave your laptop open, your phone, whatever, on the table, and then get up and go to the bathroom, you can come back and nobody will have touched your stuff. So that's how safe Korea is. And yeah, I knew it would work because we have so many other places nearby, a few steps away, that are also this Muin system where there's self-checkout. So thankfully, we met with the real estate agent, and my husband is also an entrepreneur, so he also has to do his own company's taxes and the CCTV and the Wi-Fi and getting furniture for his office space and rent and all of that kind of thing. And he's Korean, so he, helped me with what I needed help with, contracts and stuff. But actually, when I signed the lease for this place, he was in Jeju, so he was traveling and I had to do it by myself. But it was pretty easy. So I'm fluent in Korean, and actually my major was Japanese. So I really love languages. And yeah, I can pretty much do everything for my business by myself. But if I ever have problems, with a customer or another business owner or something, then I can always get help from my husband, which is really nice. Okay, so basically all we had to do was create a logo and get a self-checkout kiosk. And then we had to get the shelves and the display table and window display and that sort of thing. Chairs and CCTV. So basically, it didn't take that long to get everything. I think I signed the contract in November of 2022, and I had opened by January 2023. So I, made business cards and a logo. My husband knows how to use this web program where you do like interior design and like measure and fit things in and everything. So yeah, he measured the space and then we kind of designed what kind of shelves we wanted. And then we called a company and the guy came, looked, took pictures, and I don't know how they did it, but he got the exact color for the shelves that was already painted on the doors and the awning and everything. So they color matched that exactly and made my shelves and came in one day and installed the shelves and the tables and everything. And then I had to get books, obviously. And then a little bit after that, I was open. And I did have some problems in the beginning with the self-checkout machine not working. And that was a headache. But overall, it's been a pretty smooth ride. So yeah, I was able to start back my book club meetings with a lot of my original book club attendees. And they come here and I'll suggest a book that we'll read and they'll buy it from me. And then we'll have our book club meeting here. And there's like a bar area. So we all sit around and talk. And yeah, it's been really fun so far. But yeah, that's about it. So please like, comment, subscribe, and I'm sure to have future videos about my bookstore, about book recommendations, and about living in Korea, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to share my bookstore journey with you. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye!